My grandson found my name card behind the children's table 12 minutes before Thanksgiving dinner. Mason was on his hands and knees looking for a red crayon when he reached behind the felt turkey centerpiece and pulled out a bent paper card. He held it up between two fingers. "Grandma, why was your name hiding?" The card had a brown fingerprint turkey on the front and Carolyn written across it in gold marker. Mason and his little sister, Ella, had made it at my kitchen table the Saturday before. My daughter Dana answered before I could. "Mom's sitting with the kids," she said, still arranging water glasses. "She's the only one who can keep all 7 of them settled." There was an empty chair at the smaller adult table beside my sister Denise. Dana had filled it with a neighbor she had invited that morning. I looked at the printed seating chart clipped beside the kitchen door. 21 names in neat type. Next to mine, Dana had written 2 words by hand. "Mum, kids." I did not argue. I straightened the bent corner of my card and slipped it into my apron pocket. Dana mistook that for agreement. She did not yet understand that I had not decided where I would sit for dessert. I had arrived at Dana and Eric's house at 9:30 with 2 side dishes and the pecan pie Dana had requested. By noon, 21 people had arrived, including 7 children under 12. Dana handed me a stack of plastic cups before I had removed my coat. "Can you put these at the little table, and make sure Jordan doesn't get an orange one? Apparently orange is poison this week." She smiled as if we were sharing a joke. Then she asked me to cut grapes, warm the rolls, find Ella's tights, and settle an argument over glitter glue. None of those things bothered me by themselves. I had spent 32 years working with children. I began as a preschool teacher and retired as the director of one of Richmond's city learning centers. I could calm 6 4-year-olds during a fire drill and remember every allergy, fear, and family instruction. Children had never been the problem. The problem was that Dana had stopped asking. While I was hunting for a serving spoon, I opened the wrong kitchen drawer. On top of the batteries and the takeout menus sat a manila folder marked "School" in Dana's handwriting. A half-finished form lay across it. Franklin Elementary, winter update, due December 1st. I recognized my own printing on the line below. Authorized for pickup. Carolyn Brooks' grandmother. Below that, emergency contact, primary, Carolyn Brooks. Below that, secondary, blank. I had filled that form out myself 4 years earlier, sitting on the edge of Dana's bed while she was on partial bed rest and could not drive. I had filled out the matching one at Ella's preschool. I had signed the release at Dr. Patel's office because Dana was too dizzy to stand in line. Nobody had ever gotten around to adding a second name. I closed the drawer and found the spoon. When dinner was nearly ready, the adults poured wine and began finding their seats. I remained at the children's table because Ella had spilled cranberry juice and one of the cousins was crying over a broken paper feather. Dana leaned toward a guest and said, "Mum doesn't mind sitting with them. She always ends up helping anyway." I heard her clearly. So did Denise. My sister looked at me from across the room and raised one eyebrow. Denise was 72 and had been reading my face since we shared a bedroom as girls. She knew I did not mind children. She also knew there was a difference between helping because I chose to and being placed where everyone expected me to work. Mason climbed into the chair beside me. "Mum said you always take care of us when the grown-ups are busy," he said. He did not say it cruelly. He was 8. He was repeating what he had been taught. That sentence hurt more than the hidden card. Subscribe to her quiet justice if you believe a grandmother's love should be invited, not scheduled. I helped Mason cut his turkey. I reminded Ella to use her napkin. I moved a water glass before a toddler could knock it over. It had not begun this way. 4 years ago, on a Thursday in April, I had carried 8-week-old Ella into Dana's living room after a long afternoon. Dana was back at work 3 days by then, and still grey in the face. She took the baby, kissed her forehead, and did not look up. "The daycare called," she said. "Their opening moved to July." July. So it's 4 more weeks, maybe 5. She adjusted Ella's blanket. It's fine, right? You've got her figured out better than I do. I remember standing there with the diaper bag still on my shoulder, waiting for a question that did not come. I said yes. 6 weeks became 10. 10 became Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then teacher work days and fevers and sales conferences and dentist appointments, until my week had a shape somebody else had drawn. I loved my grandchildren. I still do. But at some point, helping stopped being a request and became the family's regular plan. I began keeping Tuesday and Thursday afternoons open without anyone officially asking me to. I stopped joining Denise for museum outings, moved appointments, and dropped out of a book club after missing 4 meetings. Last spring, Denise invited me to spend 5 days with her in Charleston. I told her I could not go because Dana needed me. Did she ask you? Denise said. She doesn't have anyone else. That wasn't my question. I did not answer. My phone vibrated in my apron pocket. The screen showed a message from Nia Harper. Have you decided? I would really love to have you with us. I need to finalize the schedule by Monday. Nia directed a neighborhood family literacy program on the south side of Richmond. We had known each other professionally for years. 3 weeks earlier, she called and asked if I would consider working 14 hours a week as a part-time coordinator. The job involved training, reading volunteers, and planning parent-child sessions. The pay was modest. What I wanted was the work. I missed being in a room where people asked for my judgment instead of assuming my availability. The problem was the schedule. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Dana's afternoons. That was how I thought of them, even though they had never belonged to her. I had told Nia I needed time. In truth, I was waiting for a way to accept the position without disappointing Dana. Dana appeared beside the children's table, carrying a bowl of mashed potatoes. "Oh, Mom," she said, "remember the school is closed next Friday, so I'll need you all day." She did not look at me long enough to notice my face. "That was not on my calendar," I said. "It's a teacher work day, I told you." "You're telling me now?" Dana paused. "Well, now you know." She placed the bowl in front of me and turned away. The small exchange stayed with me through the first half of dinner. Now you know. Not. Are you free? Not. Could you help? Now you know. One of Dana's cousins passed behind me and touched my shoulder. "You are a saint for taking the holiday shift," she said. "What holiday shift?" She looked surprised. "Dana said you were handling the kids so the rest of us could relax." I looked toward my daughter. Dana was pouring gravy over Eric's plate. A few minutes later, Eric brought me a folded piece of paper. "Dana said you needed Jordan's allergy list." I opened it. Jordan was the son of one of Dana's co-workers. I barely knew the child. "Did Dana tell you I agreed to supervise him?" Eric glanced toward his wife. "I thought she worked it out with you. Did you ask?" He gave an uncomfortable half smile. "Carrie, Dana usually handles the schedule." That was true. Eric did not create most of these arrangements. He simply benefited from them and treated his lack of curiosity as innocence. I folded the allergy list and placed it beside my plate. Denise came over while the children were decorating paper placemats. "I can trade with you," she said. I shook my head. "That would put you here instead. At least you'd get to eat." "I have eaten." "You have cut food for 7 people and taken 3 bites of your own." She glanced toward Dana. "When did you agree to this?" I looked down at the fingerprint turkey sticking out of my apron pocket. I didn't. Denise sat in the empty chair beside me for a moment. "Then why are you doing it?" "Because someone has to watch the children. Their parents are in the room." Her voice was quiet. There was no anger in it, only fact. I wanted to explain Dana's pressure, Eric's travel, and the children's needs. I had a reason for every demand, but none for why nobody needed my permission. After the plates were cleared, Dana began organizing dessert. I followed her into the kitchen. "Why did you put my place card behind the children's table?" I asked. Dana did not stop slicing the pie. "I put it near the table. It was behind the centerpiece." "Mom, it was behind a felt turkey, not buried in the yard. You could have asked me to sit there. I had 21 people to organize. And I was one of them." Dana exhaled through her nose. "Please don't make Thanksgiving uncomfortable over a chair." "It is not only the chair." "Then what is it?" I almost told her, but the kitchen was loud. Eric was searching for coffee filters. Someone called Dana from the dining room. Ella ran in asking for whipped cream. Dana used the interruption to turn away. "Can we do this another time?" That was another habit between us. The right time for my discomfort always arrived later than the right time for Dana's needs. Mason tugged my sleeve and asked if I could help him find his blue sweater. I followed him through the laundry room into the mudroom. The sweater hung on a hook beneath a large dry erase family calendar. Dana color-coded everything. Blue for work, green for school, red for travel, purple for medical appointments. My name was written in black. Carry pickup. Carry all day. Carry overnight. 4 colors for the life of this family, and 1 marker for me. The entries continued through the end of March. I moved closer. There were several regular school pickups, a teacher workday I had not heard about, and a red block in January. 4 days in Charlottesville. Beneath it, in Dana's handwriting, "Mum stays with kids." My hand remained on Mason's sweater. "Grandma?" I turned. "Here you go, sweetheart." He ran back toward the dining room. I stayed in the mudroom. The calendar was not hidden. Dana had no reason to hide it, because she did not believe she had done anything wrong. In her mind, my availability had already been settled. The only unfinished part was telling me. A woman I recognized from Dana's hospital stepped into the mudroom to retrieve her coat. "Oh, Carrie," she said. "Thank you for helping during training week. Dana said you were a lifesaver." I looked at her. "Helping with what?" The woman's smile faltered. "With Jordan and my youngest. Dana said you already had Mason and Ella those afternoons, so adding 2 more would be all right." She hesitated. I felt terrible about it, honestly. "That's why I picked up her on-call weekends, both of them. It seemed like the least I could do." "You covered 2 of her weekends." "In exchange, yes." Her face changed as she watched mine. "She didn't." "No." "Oh. That is not your fault." She apologized twice more before she left. I stood alone in the mudroom and let myself understand it. Dana had not merely assumed my time. She had spent it. She had taken 14 hours of her mother's week to a colleague and traded them for 2 weekends of her own. The rate had been set without me. Under the calendar, pinned to the corkboard beside the dog leash, was a printed hotel confirmation. Boar's Head Resort, Charlottesville. 4 nights in January. The confirmation was dated October 14th. I looked back at the red block on the whiteboard. At Mum stays with kids in the same black marker as everything else that belonged to me. October 14th. Thanksgiving was 6 weeks after that. She had 6 weeks and 21 place cards, and the only name she did not write in advance was mine. I returned to the kitchen and washed my hands slowly. My phone rang. Nia. I stepped onto the back porch and closed the door behind me. The air was cold enough to clear the heat from my face. "I hope I'm not interrupting dinner," Nia said. "You're not." That sounded like a lie. I laughed once. It surprised me. Nia waited. "I have been trying to decide whether I can give you the hours," I said. "I know. I keep saying I have family obligations." "Do you?" "Yes." "Are all of them yours to carry?" The question sounded like Nia, direct but not rehearsed. "I help with my grandchildren." "I know you do." "They need me." "I believe that. I also believe you are allowed to decide when you are available." I looked through the glass door at Dana directing people around the kitchen. I had spent my career teaching parents that children needed predictable routines and clear boundaries. I had explained that love without structure could become chaos. Somehow I had never applied the lesson to myself. I can start in 3 weeks, I said. Nia was quiet for half a second. Are you accepting? Yes. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Yes. Then I'll send the paperwork Monday. When I ended the call, Dana stood in the doorway. What was that about? Nia's literacy program. Dana's expression changed. You're not taking that job, are you? I just did. But those are your days with the kids. There it was again. Your days. They are Tuesdays and Thursdays, I said. You know what I mean. I am beginning to. I put my phone in my apron pocket, beside the turkey card. Did you promise my afternoons to Jordan's mother? Dana crossed her arms. She was in a bind. She covered 2 of your on-call weekends. Dana's jaw moved. That is not how it... Did you ask me? I knew you would help. That is not the same thing. Mom, she rubbed her forehead. I can't rearrange everything because Nia offered you a little part-time project. You're retired. Why would you create a problem for us? I followed her into the kitchen. The seating chart was still clipped beside the pantry. I removed it, turned it over, and asked Dana for a pen. What are you doing? Making sure everyone has a place. I began with the children. Mason would sit beside Eric. Ella would sit beside Dana. Jordan would sit beside his mother. The 2 cousins who had been arguing over glitter would sit at opposite ends with their own parents nearby. The older children could share one end of the main table. I wrote Denise beside my name. Then I carried the chart into the dining room and moved the place cards. No one gasped. One uncle shifted 2 chairs down. A mother called her toddler over, and Eric moved beside Mason when I asked. Dana followed me with her jaw tight. She picked up my fingerprint turkey card from the adult table. Mum, stop. I placed my hand over hers. The children came with parents, I said. I came as your mother. Her face flushed. You're embarrassing me. I am changing the seating for dessert. You know what you're doing. Yes. That was all I said. Dana looked around the room, perhaps expecting the family to defend her. Instead, people were settling into their new places. Denise made room beside her. Jordan's mother thanked me for switching seats because her son had begun rubbing his eyes. The crisis Dana feared did not happen. The parents sat with their children. The children survived. I ate a slice of pecan pie while Denise told me about a photography exhibit she wanted to see in January. For the first time that day, I finished something before it went cold. Dana barely spoke through dessert. When the guests began carrying plates into the kitchen, she came close enough that only I could hear. What else did you change? I folded my napkin. My schedule. Dana asked Eric to join us in the kitchen. Denise remained near the sink, drying dishes. She did not speak, but I was grateful she stayed. Dana closed the swinging door to the dining room. Tell Eric what you just told me. I accepted a part-time position at the Family Literacy Center, I said. Eric smiled automatically. That's great. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. His smile faded. Dana said, exactly. I continued before either of them could interrupt. I will help with the current pickup schedule for 2 more weeks. After that, you will need another arrangement. 2 weeks? Dana said. You can't find after-school care in 2 weeks. You can begin the transition in 2 weeks. If there is a short gap and you are actively arranging care, we can discuss specific days. But the standing schedule is ending. And teacher work days? You can ask. I may be available, or I may not. What about sick days? You can call me in a real emergency, but I will not be the default plan for every fever or school closure. I turned to Eric. I will not stay with the children during your January trip. He looked at Dana. What January trip? Dana's mouth tightened. The Charlottesville weekend. The reservation you told me your mum was covering? She usually does. You booked it October 14th, I said. I read the confirmation in your mudroom an hour ago. You had 6 weeks to ask me, and you used them to write my name on a whiteboard. Eric's embarrassment shifted into irritation. I thought you asked her. You found it convenient to believe that. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I did not let his surprise turn him into an innocent bystander. Eric had accepted years of pickups, dinners, overnight care, and last-minute rescues without once asking whether the arrangement still worked for me. Dana placed both palms on the counter. So, what are we supposed to do? The question revealed more than she intended. You are supposed to plan as parents. That is easy for you to say. No, it is not easy for me to say. That is why it took me this long. You're punishing us because of a stupid name card. A punishment takes something that belongs to you, I said. My time never did. There is one more thing, I said. It is administrative, and I would rather you hear it from me than from a school secretary. Dana's eyes narrowed. I am the only authorized pickup on Mason's form at Franklin and on Ella's at Grace Lane. I am the primary emergency contact at both and the only release on file at Dr. Patel's office. I filled out every one of those myself, in your bedroom, the spring you were on bed rest. The secondary line has been blank for 4 years. Eric said, blank. Blank, which means when a school nurse picks up a phone, my number is the first one she sees, and often the only one. That has not been a favor for a long time. That has been the design. You can't take yourself off, Dana said. What if something happens? Something should happen. Eric's name should go on the primary line. Yours is already on the enrollment paperwork, but not on the pickup authorization, because you were dizzy the week it was due and I did it for you. I picked up my casserole dish. I will be at Franklin Elementary at 8:15 Monday morning to add Eric, and at Grace Lane after that. I will remain on the list as a third contact. I am not disappearing. I am no longer the first phone number in a crisis I was never asked to be first for. Dana's eyes filled, though she did not cry. The kids are going to think you don't want them. They will think that, only if you tell them that. What am I supposed to say? Tell them Grandma has work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tell them adults ask before making plans for each other. That sounds cold. It is a schedule, Dana, not a rejection. Eric leaned against the counter. What about Saturdays? I would like 1 Saturday a month with Mason and Ella. The library, the park, a museum, or my kitchen and a bowl of pancake batter. I want time with them that is ours, not a shift I am covering. Dana looked at the closed door, then back at me. Fine. Her voice had gone flat and even. Take your Saturdays. But don't be surprised when they stop mattering to them too. I did not answer that. I carried it home instead. Before I left, Mason found me near the front door. Grandma, are you mad at me? My heart tightened. I crouched, so we were eye level. No, baby, never. Mum said you don't want to pick us up anymore. I want to spend time with you. I also started a new job. But you're retired. I smiled. That means I finished one job. It does not mean I stopped having a life. He considered that. Will we still do library Saturdays? Yes. 1 Saturday, every month, if you want. What if I want 2? Then you can ask. He grinned. Can I ask now? Not while your mother is standing behind you listening. Dana looked away. I hugged Mason, kissed Ella, and drove home with my pie plate on the passenger seat. I did not feel victorious. I had imagined that setting a boundary might feel like opening a locked door. Instead, it felt like walking away from a house while wondering whether anyone I loved would follow. For 14 years after my divorce, I had built much of my life around Dana and the children. Being needed had protected me from loneliness. It gave shape to my week. It gave me stories to tell and small hands to hold. Now I had to admit that some of what I called closeness had become dependence. And in the dark, on Route 33, I kept hearing it. Don't be surprised when they stop mattering to them, too. The next morning, Dana sent me a screenshot from an after-school program. Waiting list, 6 to 8 weeks. Below it, she wrote, I hope the new job is worth what this does to the family. I read the message 3 times. Then I called Denise. I may have handled it badly. No, you don't even know what happened. You called me at 7:15 the morning after Thanksgiving. I know guilt has gotten out of bed before breakfast. I told her about the waiting list. 2 weeks may not be enough, I said. Then help with the transition if you decide to. Do not give back the whole week because one program has a waiting list. What if Dana cannot find care? Eric can change some travel. Dana can adjust some hours. There are other programs, sitters, neighbors, and parents. They have a planning problem, Carrie. The children are not being abandoned. I sat at my kitchen table with Mason's fingerprint turkey card in front of me. I don't want the children to suffer. Then don't make them suffer. Give Dana information. Offer a reasonable bridge. Stop offering your entire life. I knew a reputable after-school program run by a former colleague. I sent Dana the contact information. I did not call the director for her. That distinction felt small. It was not. On Monday, I stood at the Franklin Elementary front office at 8:15 with my license in my hand. The secretary pulled the card, read it, and looked up. You're on here 3 times. I know. She added Eric to the primary line, moved Dana up, and moved me down to 3rd. It took 11 minutes. She printed a copy of the updated card and slid it across the counter, and I folded it into my purse and drove to Grace Lane and did it again. On Monday afternoon, Nia emailed the employment forms. At the line marked availability, I wrote Tuesday and Thursday, noon to 7. My hand paused before I signed. Then I signed. 9 days later, on a Tuesday, Ella spiked a fever at 1:50 in the afternoon. The school called Eric. He was in a client meeting in Glen Allen, 35 minutes out. He left the meeting. At 2:40, my phone buzzed while I was laminating name tags. Did you actually take yourself off the emergency list? I typed one line and put the phone face down. I moved to 3rd. Is she all right? 20 minutes passed. She's fine. 101.4. Eric got her. Then, 4 minutes after that, I didn't know he'd never picked her up sick before. I looked at that message for a long time. It was not an apology. It was something rarer at that stage. It was a woman discovering the shape of a load by carrying one corner of it for the first time. The next few weeks were uncomfortable, but manageable. I continued 2 pickups during the transition. Eric rearranged his travel schedule, Dana shifted 1 late meeting, and the children entered an after-school program 3 days a week. No one lost a job. No child was left alone. The family did not collapse. Their convenience did. The January trip was shortened from 4 nights to 1. Eric's mother agreed to keep the children because Dana asked her 6 weeks in advance. That detail mattered to me. Dana knew how to ask. She simply had not believed she needed to ask me. I started at the literacy center 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. On my first afternoon, I arrived 20 minutes early and stood outside the program room with a box of name tags in my hands. I felt nervous. That humbled me. I had directed an entire learning center, managed staff evaluations, handled licensing inspections, and sat with frightened parents after difficult developmental screenings. Yet 4 years of being treated mainly as grandma had made me wonder whether my professional abilities still belonged anywhere. Nia opened the door. You planning to come in? I was checking the room. You were hiding in the hallway. I laughed and followed her inside. The first session included 11 parents, 14 children, and 6 volunteers. Within 15 minutes, I remembered myself. I reorganized the reading stations, helped a father choose books his daughter could manage without embarrassment, and coached a volunteer through a difficult moment. At the end of the afternoon, Nia handed me the schedule for the following month. "Do these hours still work for you?" she asked. "They do." The question was ordinary. That was what made it matter. Dana and I remained careful with each other through December. The first planned Saturday, I woke at 6 and could not go back to sleep. I set out the flour and the good griddle and 2 mugs and told myself that if the children came in tired and bored, if Mason asked to go home at 11, I would not read anything into it. Dana's car pulled up 4 minutes early. Mason was out of it before it fully stopped. He had a paper bag in one hand. "I brought library cards," he said, "mine and Ella's. Mom couldn't find hers." Dana stayed at the door instead of coming inside. "Pick up at 4, she asked. 4 works. There was no warmth in her voice, but there was a question. That was progress. Mason and Ella helped me make pancakes. We walked to the library. Ella fell asleep on my sofa with a picture book open on her chest. At 4, Dana knocked. Mason did not want to go. "It's only been 6 hours, he said, in the aggrieved voice of a person cheated by arithmetic. Dana looked at me over his head. Something in her face was working. "Next month," she said. I do not know what she had expected. I know what she had told me to expect. Later that winter, Mason asked whether I liked my new job more than I liked picking them up. "They are different," I said. "But which one do you like more?" "I like my job because I chose it. I like time with you because I choose that too." He frowned. "Didn't you choose before?" I thought carefully. "Sometimes I did. Sometimes the plan was made before anyone asked me." He looked toward the turkey card, which I had tucked into the clear pocket of my planner. "That's like your seat." "Yes." Mum should have asked. "Yes." He returned to his book. In January, Dana texted me. "Would you be available Thursday evening for 2 hours? Eric has a work dinner and I have a hospital meeting. It's okay if you already have plans." I did have plans. Denise and I were attending the photography exhibit I had missed twice before. I replied, "I'm not available Thursday. I can take them Saturday morning if that helps." Dana answered, "Thank you. Saturday would be nice." A few days later, Eric came to pick up the children. Before they reached the car, he stopped at my door. "I should have checked with you," he said. "All those times Dana said it was handled, I was happy not to ask questions." I waited. "That made it easier for me," he continued. "I'm sorry." "I appreciate you saying that." He nodded. There was no long conversation. He began taking responsibility for more pickups, which mattered more than a longer apology would have. A week later, Dana asked if we could have coffee. We met at a bakery near my townhouse. Dana looked tired, not theatrically exhausted, simply like a woman who had spent 2 months confronting the full size of her own responsibilities. "I owe you an apology," she said. I waited. She took a breath. "I should not have hidden your card." "No. I should not have told people you had agreed to watch all the children. I should not have traded your afternoons for my weekends. No. I should not have put your name on the calendar or booked Charlottesville before asking. No." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You could help me along here. I have helped you along for years. I am listening now." That almost made her smile. She looked down at her coffee. "I think I got used to you fixing the part of my life I could not manage." "I know. And when you stopped, it felt like you were taking something away." "I know that too. But it was never mine." There it was. Not a perfect speech. Not a promise that she would never make another selfish choice. Recognition. "I did not mind helping," I said. "I minded disappearing inside the help." Dana nodded slowly. I told myself you needed the children as much as they needed you. Sometimes I did. That made it easier. For both of us. I had to own my part. I had said yes after resentment had already started. I had let fear of losing the children make me dishonest about what I could give. Dana had taken advantage of my silence, but I had also used usefulness to avoid asking who I was when nobody needed rescuing. Dana wrapped both hands around her cup. Can we fix this? We can build something different. What does that mean? You ask. I answer honestly. You do not punish me for no. I do not say yes and punish you with resentment. And the kids? I love them. That has not changed. Will you ever do regular pickups again? Not Tuesdays or Thursdays. She sighed, then nodded. Okay. It was not dramatic. It was specific. Over the next several months, Dana changed unevenly, but visibly. She asked before making plans. Eric handled more pickups. The children stayed in after-school care and, to everyone's surprise, loved it. Dana still occasionally began a request, like an announcement, and then corrected herself. Mom, I need you Saturday, sorry. Are you available Saturday? Sometimes I was. Sometimes I was not. The first few times I said no, my stomach tightened. The world kept turning. By spring, the literacy program held a family evening to celebrate the children's progress. Dana brought Mason and Ella. I stood behind the registration table, wearing a blue badge Nia had printed for me. Carolyn Brooks, Family Literacy Coordinator. Mason came around the table and put a folded piece of paper in front of me before he said hello. It was a page, torn from a notebook. 12 boxes drawn in pencil, one for each month. Each box had a number in it, and a word. Pancakes. Museum. Library. Park. It's my calendar, he said. Of our Saturdays, there's still 6 empty ones because we haven't picked yet. You made a calendar. Mom helped me draw the lines. He leaned on the table. She said I had to ask you before I filled any of them in. I looked at the boxes for a moment longer than I needed to. Then I noticed the pencil. One color, every square. No blue, no green, no red, no purple, no black, set aside for the person who was expected to absorb whatever was left. You kept it, Mason said, spotting the old place card in my planner. I did. Because Mom hid it? Because I found it. He did not fully understand the difference, but someday he might. I took the card out and placed it beside my badge. The gold letters were smudged. One corner was still bent. The paper turkey looked silly and sweet, exactly as it had when Mason and Ella made it. Dana approached with another parent. This is my mother, Carolyn, she said. She ran an early learning center for years, and now she coordinates this program. Not, this is Grandma. She helps with the kids. My name, my work, my place. Later, Ella pulled me toward the reading rug, and I sat beside her because I wanted to. Dana stood across the room talking with Nia. Mason joined a group building sentences from word cards. I looked at the Thanksgiving card one last time before slipping it back into my planner, next to a page of penciled boxes, with 6 of them still empty. For a long time, being needed had felt like proof that I mattered. After retirement, it filled hours that had once belonged to work and softened a house that sometimes felt too quiet. But love should still leave room for a question. I did not stop being a grandmother when I reclaimed my time. I simply stopped treating grandmotherhood like a shift someone else could assign. Would you have stopped the childcare completely, or kept one day on your own terms? Share your view, and subscribe to Her Quiet Justice.